All right. You're listening to Matå'pang's Canoe Club. I hope you like the name. You appreciate that.
I love the name.
I'm here with Machålek Sindålu, longtime friend now.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
Oh, no, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just agreeing.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And also, fun fact for you listeners here, a direct descendant of Matå'pang himself.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so the stars sort of aligned with all of this, us bumping into each other face to face for the first time since I've been gone for years. And then me starting this podcast. This is only episode 2.
Oh,
and
damn.
So I was like, there's a lot of weight behind that name, Matå'pang, and I was like, got to do this justice. So the first episode was with Vince Diaz, talking about in the wake of Matå'pang's canoe, of course. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, Machålek is a descendant of Matå'pang. And I was like, who better than a descendant to have on the show in the earliest stages of this. So.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for being here. It's
been so long.
It has, yeah.
I think the first time we recorded Fanachu together was even next building over down in the conference room.
That's right, yeah, in HSS. Yeah. And the first time we met was at Infusion.
Yeah.
Can we just reflect on how random that was and how I don't know, that was new for me. I don't know if it was for you, but I mean from what I recall, I commented on one of Toby's cousins' posts on Facebook. Yeah, and then we started talking about politics and stuff like that. And then he tagged you in and was like, my friend Machålek is a really good guy, a really good person to speak to about this. And we just connected from there. And then we just met at Infusion.
Yeah, just hey, I'm going to meet this stranger.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. Yeah.
It's like taking a chance. You didn't know what you'd run into.
Yeah. Oh, man. How weird is that?
I mean, it was a little strange, but honestly, because, I'd been gone for a really long time.
Right.
Off island, and coming back, I was just I want to meet everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to meet everybody, anybody. I want to talk about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, this guy seems cool, wants to talk about stuff. Hell yeah, man.
Nice. Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't know what to expect, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
So that's what I was learning.
That's cool. I mean, I don't know. So did you find, because I think I'm sort of going through this now, but was it hard figuring out how to connect with people?
Oh, hell yeah.
When you first got here, and maybe even as COVID restrictions are releasing, or
that's been a thing too.
Yeah. Because I don't know, I find myself just ridden with social anxiety in some scenarios, and me and Helen have talked about this occasionally, but I'm having trouble figuring out how to socialize after everything.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I have a really complicated relationship with socializing. I feel like anybody that gets to know me thinks that I'm really good at it.
Uh-huh.
The fact of the matter is if you get to know me and we become friends, it's because there's something about our interactions or our personalities that mesh really well. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, I feel comfortable, I feel safer, and I can extrovert. Mm-hmm. I can externalize the things that I think and feel and make it so, we have a relationship.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, I am very introverted and I don't talk a whole lot. People tell me I come off as really kind of either moody or mean or I'm acting tough or something. But it's really that I'm just really, really guarded. Mm-hmm. I don't trust people off the bat at all. And I actually usually expect the worst out of people. And I think that's because of how I grew up, where I grew up in the States, in the diaspora, and my neighborhood was rough, and just where I grew up in general was just pretty unfriendly. Mm-hmm. So especially to a mixed race brown kid, mm-hmm. Working class and just all that put together, and it's just
Yeah.
I just expect people to want to like screw me over or hurt me,
Right.
or just stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and what's funny is when I first moved back, like I was trying to be more open to people, and that landed me in social situations where I made friends with someone who didn't end up being a real friend, you know, like that kind of thing. Like I made myself vulnerable in ways that I hadn't been in decades.
Yeah.
And it was rough. And I feel like with the restrictions and with you know, this pandemic that's been happening again in ways, you know, where like I have to be guarded, and it's not the same exact thing, you know. It's not like where I'm like, you know, like, oh, you're just gonna hurt me. Like it's not where I expect you to like have some sort of intention or ulterior motive, as much as you may not mean to, but you could hurt me. You may not mean to, but you could get me sick.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know all your practices, you know, and sometimes I slack on mine, you know, like nobody can be 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And if you try to be, I mean, you could end up like just a neurotic mess about it. And, you know, I've been there too, where I was freaking out because I was living with my grandparents. I have 3 kids, you know, and just freaked out about it, you know. But then also I got to work, I got to make money, got to survive. And one of my jobs is interfacing with the public. And, you know, I would have to show up in a place where, you know, people don't adhere to all the restrictions. And we're talking about people who are already like living pretty risky lives sometimes. And honestly, what's funny is most of them are not local. So, so that's just, it's hard to find a balance. And sometimes you feel like you're going just bonkers, like trying to figure it out. You know, there's been times where I feel incredibly lonely. You don't really hang out with anybody for months at a time, especially when it was in full swing. First lockdown, second one. And I didn't see anybody except people I worked with. That's it. Yeah, I was really lonely.
Oh, man. Yeah, for like long stretches of time, you know, just be me and Helen, just and that's it. Like that was the only socializing, and still for the most part, like we're working from home, and so we're just cooped up in the house a lot of times. And I feel I get what you're saying. I mean, like there were a lot of moments where like I felt sort of lonely and I miss socializing. But like now that I'm like out in the world and I'm like, you know, like we go to Ross sometimes, I'm like, oh my God, this is too much socializing, and I need to. Ross is the next level, you know.
Yeah, no, that's being like, oh man, I haven't gone swimming in a creek for a while, and then you're like, let me go drop in the middle of the ocean.
Right. That's exactly what that feels like. Oh man.
I will say this though, as somebody who tends to be kind of introverted, there's been times where the pandemic has been sweet. Yeah. Like where I can be like, oh no, you know, I don't feel like I can go anywhere or do anything. Sorry, just gotta stay in and listen to music and read and watch a movie.
Yeah, a lot of times I felt very positively about like just being stuck at home. Yeah.
When I would quarantine, because I did have to travel for work during this, so I went to Tinian in Saipan for a bit and then back. And during that quarantine, and then I had COVID twice. Oh, yeah. And during those times, you know, I was actually like, I wasn't dreading it. I wasn't like, oh man, this is terrible. Yeah. Like I was like, this is cool. Like I work on a computer and I listen to records all day, and like I don't have to put on clothes.
Yeah, I feel that. So I teach my classes in my pajamas basically. That's dope. Yeah. Oh man.
That's cherry.
If anything can be said about like, you know, teaching at UOG, you know, aside from the massive workload and like in the midst of the pandemic, like, you know, at least I'm able to teach in my underwear, you know, and so. But I hope the dean doesn't hear this. So, and he probably won't.
He probably won't, but you never know.
You never know. He might be a supporter of Fanachu, and then he might get to listen to this on Patreon.
Yeah, and then he's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this guy's. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. You know.
Same.
Putting
Same.
that out there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm also not in my underwear right now, just for the listeners.
I might be.
Yeah. That's so
forever inappropriate.
Right.
So,
but tell me, so like I said, before I hit record, this is sort of really our first opportunity to just like sit down and catch up. Yeah. And so I don't know if you want to like run listeners down with like what you're doing now and
oh man,
what's new?
I don't know what is new. I think it's been years since I've like sat down with you. So,
yes.
I mean, a lot has happened in my personal life, stuff that I probably won't share.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm working an archeologist.
Shit.
Doing that work. It's important work. I think we need a hell of a lot more, local people and indigenous people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see firsthand all the things that's wrong with it. So, it's still very entrenched in, colonial. Like,
yeah.
It is colonial, like this period, but trying to find ways to not have it that way. And there's strength in numbers. That's the real big thing for what I realize is the more people with our mindset and with our, I guess worldview, if you will, doing it, the better chance we have of accomplishing goals that we have, like protecting, our sites, protecting our cultural heritage and human remains and all these things. Like if we have more people who are going to stand together, then, you have a less of a chance of them just being like, well, we're going to push you aside and go to the next person who will do what we want.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just better, I guess, how do you say, like oversight within our field by the field, I think that's important. But other than archaeology, which I'm doing lots of for the last 2 years, I got my band going.
Yes.
I know I've talked about how I wanted to start a band for a long time, and I tried 2 or 3 times to get something going, and it just never took off. And then it just fell in my lap with some friends. They're like, "Hey, we're doing this. We think you would be perfect for singing in it." And I was like, "Well, it just so happens like I could probably make it work." And yeah, we've been doing that. We've played a few shows. It's interesting because one of our guitarists lives in California.
Oh, okay.
And we have another guitarist who lives here. So whenever we play our shows here, it's usually just a 4-piece. We don't have the 2 guitars together. Still ripping.
Yeah.
Still so cherry.
Yeah.
But he will. Our other guitarist in California is supposed to come back actually this summer. So
awesome.
He can catch us with both guitarists this summer.
Nice.
But, we're a hardcore punk band. We take influences from, New York hardcore, like Oi, stuff like that, crossover. So there's like some thrash elements mixed with like some kind of like rock, punk, like fastcore stuff. It's fun. It's nice. Cool. And lyrically, like I go.
Oh yeah, you haven't told our listeners the name of the band.
I was getting there eventually. Actually, I was totally spacing it. That's the other thing. I've become completely like just absent-minded.
Yeah. Same.
But we're called Spear.
Yes.
Yeah, Spear. You can find us on Instagram at Spear_crew.
Spear_crew. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been good. I don't know how to describe it except that it's a really amazing outlet.
Yeah.
It's fun creating with my bandmates, and we've been getting a lot of support on Guam, definitely. And actually, that came as a surprise because we do have a history on Guam of punk and like thrash metal and stuff like that having like enclaves, like really strong like support within like a small group. But we've been getting it from places I didn't expect, people that I didn't think liked this style of music at all.
Yeah. And
it's been cool. But we've also been getting a lot of support from the States too. Within like our scene, within like the hardcore community, and a lot of that is with our guitarist and drummer who are connected deeply and with like the Bay Area like punk and hardcore scenes. We get a lot of love from over there, and people ask us like if we're gonna go over there and tour, and like there's bands over there that want us to support, and I don't know, we'll see where things go. Right now, we're working on a recording.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gets done. And I think actually, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I put lyrics in Kulu? I forget.
I didn't see lyrics.
I don't remember if I submitted. Yeah, no, I put some. I don't remember. See, this is me not having a good memory.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's in there or not. But yeah, that's another thing I did. I submitted some stuff for Kulu, the
Independent
Guahan zine.
Yeah.
That you created, and it looks awesome.
Yeah.
What I saw from what you posted, so I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I was gonna ask you, how do I get physical copy?
Well, Helen's in studio right now, by the way. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And maybe we. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how to get copies. They haven't even told me. They just dropped off like 5 for me.
Oh shoot. Sounds good. I will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bother if me get.
For sure. Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, where's my copies? Huh?
Yeah.
Where's my copies?
Maybe we can do a plug once we find out more info. We can tell people how to actually get a copy of the zine. And the launch is tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
I might just show up to that one.
At 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think I might actually be on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So let me see. You know, one thing that I have said, like, because my sister Maria, you know, has asked if I've, you know, gotten in touch with you since I've been back, and I told her that about the band, and I told her it was really good to see you sort of like in your element. You know, it seems like you're really, you have an outlet and you're like thriving in this way that, you know, that maybe you didn't have like before I left. You know, and it's so good to see that like transformation, I think. You know.
Good.
So I remember there was that one show I went to with you, and like just watching you mosh and stuff, like you have like all this energy inside you, and like you're just a really chill guy, like on the day to day, you know. And so it's really cool to see you able to express that now.
It's something I needed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like, especially now, this point in my life, I keep a lot of that energy in because, you know, in the past, it's not manifested in the most positive ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, some of it was ways people would say is not positive, and I would say is positive. You know, I think that there's, you know, violence that's good.
Yeah.
So, definitely did some of that, but you know, general, some negativity.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Ah.
But it's good. I don't know, like, yeah, you're right. I think for the most part, like, my mental health has been way better than it has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When like years ago when we were spending time together.
Yeah.
Just because I have a place to put all this stuff, like all this bad energy.
Yeah.
Turn it into something else.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of anger, lots of stuff from trauma.
Yeah.
Just convert it back into, you know, talking about things that matter and, you know, trying to make an impact that way.
Nice.
So that's the thing I think with our band is, you know, we're not just trying to have fun. Like, we're really trying to talk about, like, the experience of living on Guam, growing up on Guam, and what it is, like, and not from, like, a romanticized point of view, but also not talking, you know, down on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just as realistically as possible, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just how awesome it can be, and then how hard it is, like the poverty and like
mm-hmm.
the social stuff, like violence, like just all of that mixed in with, you know, how people support each other and
mm-hmm.
you know, just I don't know. I feel like Guam's a lot more complicated, and it's good for that, but it's a lot more complicated than people want to act.
Yeah.
Pretend.
There's a lot of tension.
There's so much tension on this
pulling
island
in different ways and this way and that, and yeah. And I don't know, is there for you, you know, well, first of all, the name Spear Crew is awesome.
Thank you.
And so is any of that like contention present for you in like the name, or like what was the thought process behind Spear Crew? Finding
a name was like, as a group process. We were trying so hard to find what we felt really embodied what we were talking about. For spear, what's funny is so shout out to Reg. She came up with it. That's our David, our bass player, his partner, his wife, and she just like said it to him, and he was like, "Whoa!" Like it just hit, and like he told us, and we are like, "That's the name, that's it." Like before that, we had talked about a couple different ones, like Concrete Jungle. Like for a while, we were considering the name Scrap. Like you want scrap, like,
right?
But it was cool, but it just didn't sit right, and in some ways, it was kind of cartoony. Yeah. But man, when we heard Spear, we're just like, yes, like it's about, like for us, it's like there's an offensive, like we have a weapon, we're wielding a weapon, but a weapon also can hurt, and so it's supposed to protect, but it also can hurt. It also, presents you opportunity for power, but it can also put you at a disadvantage. And usually the way we talk about a spear on Guam is tip of the spear, So we talk about militarization, you talk about how that affects us here, A spear can be so positive and so negative at the same time for us, Tip of the spear, there's a lot of people that have positive things to think about the military presence. There's a lot of people that have negative things to think about it. So it's just complicated. It seems simple, but when you really think about, when you break it down, when you talk about it, it's just like, it represents those tensions that you're talking about. It represents, protecting and peacekeeping, but it also represents violence. It represents tradition in a sense, but it also represents, how far we can get away from that. So, but also talking about the importance of that, or what it is, or, it's just, it brings up this entire conversation, like this discourse that can emerge out of just the name.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just it's a really great name.
Yeah. There's so much community in there too. I mean, like spear can also be a tool for sustenance and spear fishing.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So it's beautiful, man. And I haven't unfortunately been able to go to a live show. Me and Helen are expecting our baby very soon.
I know. I would not want any trouble, any harm.
Right. So, but I'm sure afterwards with the summer, I'm sure we can we'll be able to catch you. Yeah,
that's what I'm liking. I'm all about that.
Yeah,
just that spirit mosh.
Nice. But what I do love with the optics and stuff, like I see you, like even in El Teiro when I was on Instagram and stuff, like I see the optics, with you guys' shows and stuff, and I love that you have like the independent shirt on and everything. And
we're all about it.
Yeah, it's so good to see.
No, we were so lucky when they let us play, the Maga'låhi concert. Yeah. We were excited. We didn't think we would be able to be honest.
Yeah,
we're not. Just our sound is a bit abrasive. Not a lot of people go for it, but that's why also we've been surprised. Like people have been like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
like they've been really excited about it. They're like. Some people have been like, I've never heard anything like this before. And then other people will be like, man, this reminds me of stuff from when I was young. Like people bringing out, thinking about the stuff they listen to. And they might compare it to stuff that we don't necessarily think we sound like. But, there's like some sort of connection for them. Yeah. Like they'll talk about like Metallica or suicidal tendencies or, like stuff like that. Just, or maybe they were into punk and they like talk about, like being a Minor Threat or something. And, and it surprises, sometimes you just, wow, okay, so you were into that stuff. Now we're presenting an opportunity to see it through a lens that is culturally like relevant.
Very cool, yeah.
So, but we were surprised because when we think of that concert, honestly, like I love it, but I think more like tomorrow music, island music, like poetry, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then when they were like, yes, we want your hardcore band, your punk band, to do a segment. And the way they did it too, where we recorded it ourselves in the studio, and then like kind of cut it in like we were hacking the feed. Yeah, that was so cool. Badass, yeah. But I don't know. Sorry, I get pretty stoked on that.
No, it's awesome. Yeah,
this is like one of the bigger things I've been doing with my time. Obviously, I have a lot to say about it. Yeah, but it's cool.
No, it's awesome, man. I'm really, really happy to see that. Is there an album on the way, or?
Oh, there is. Yeah, we got a 6-song EP that we've been recording.
Mhm.
We're actually finishing up a lot of the tracking for bass and guitars, and I'm gonna get in the studio and do the vocals soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
So-
cool, man.
I get nervous about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I recorded something.
Oh.
Long time. Last time I tried to record something was with one of my bands in the States, and we were just recording DIY like in our living room. And that was back like 9 years ago.
Mhm. Wow.
So yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I don't know how old people think I am, but
You're ageless. You're a vampire. That's
I
what
am
I
a
think
vampire.
anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing in bands for the last on and off for the last 23 years.
Mhm.
So
Damn. Very cool. I remember you showed me like that archive video of you like moshing. Or were you? Was that a video of you in one of your bands? Previously?
I think
Like it was a really old video, and I'm not gonna reveal the source.
maybe.
Yeah. But,
I'm trying to remember.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to remember which one. There's like a couple different videos floating out there. A couple
shit.
different bands.
Nice.
So, and those are from well over a decade ago.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Mm.
I was in some metal bands. And,
Very cool.
yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, man. So do you kind of see like I don't know, maybe you could help me sort of wrap my head around this, because like it's so interesting, like the subcultures, you know, on Guahan.
Oh yeah.
You know, do you kind of see like sort of like a hardcore community or collective kind of taking shape? I mean, like you said, there's people like from different generations that listen to you and they're like, oh yeah, this reminds me of this, or I used to do this and this and this. But do you see like actual like organized collective or community like forming?
Oh, it's happening right now. We're in the midst of it. It's been happening for the last couple of years, really strongly. Like it started before that. There's some bands and some people that are really pushing for it, really doing their thing by themselves, like doing their own thing. But I don't know what it is about this pandemic, man. I think it making us feel how isolated we can be. Like people really were like, let's do this. And, you know, it's in formative stages, and we're going to work out, you know, kinks and work out, you know, any like, there's probably going to be social problems. You know, there's going to be somebody who's going to like have a problem with somebody else at some point. But it's really like come together. Like, and the shows that we've been playing have been born from that. You know, we've got all these people in different bands, different like people, producers, like people that record, like all these sound people, like artists, like who are coming together. Like we're all coming, and like we have like this big chat, and like we organize this stuff, you know. And these shows, starting with the first show ever, we call them the show evers.
Yeah.
So the first show ever at Tower of London, second show ever at Tower of London in the parking lot, third show ever, which is at Molly's, and then we just had fourth show ever at Molly's as well. Like all this has been from that like DIY community that's forming, and we've had other things happen too, like with the zine show, and there's been more like house shows and house parties that have been going on. Not everybody knows about them, you know. It's not a public thing because you know don't want things to get out of control right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a growing DIY scene, and there's like antithesis of everything. Shout out to Jones, like they're putting out their own music and like organizing their own stuff too. And just it's just kind of exploding right now. People are recording their own stuff and originals and like just doing their thing. Yeah, I think part of it. So some people in this were touring, like they were going out and starting a tour.
Yeah.
Like there was 3 bands in 2019 that went to Japan and toured there from here. And I feel like when we weren't able to travel anymore, it was like, well, all our plans to like go outward and do stuff have now changed. So we're going to do things as inward as awesome as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, it's just,
homegrown.
Yeah, it's very homegrown. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think any one person can really claim that they had a huge, like, you know, there's people that have been doing a lot, like, but I feel like it's just been a whole lot of different things, a lot of different people that have just spurred each other on, and one thing inspired another. And
Yeah.
one conversation led to doing something.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But I don't know. I think it's exciting. You know, coming from the background I did back in Washington State in the Northwest, you know, DIY for me didn't just mean people like making art or writing poems and putting it in a zine or making like loud shitty music. Like,
Yeah.
it also creates communities, and in those communities, like, radical stuff can happen. You know, you can have discourse, you can have really messy relationships where you actually figure out your problems, you know, or people that are problematic can either run through accountability or get lost, you know.
Yeah.
And like, those are really important things. And I don't know what it is about for me, but like seeing it growing here, like even just starting with just like the idea that we want to create together,
Yeah.
do this for ourselves. And to me, I'm like, this is like the opportunity.
Yeah.
We are ripe for people to have these conversations and start making, you know, communities where we don't accept all of the bullshit that gets normalized on, you know, in our communities and in our culture here.
Yeah.
You know, like, so, God, I feel like such a douche talking about my band in this way. But we have a song called Naftan, and it's one of the ones we played on the concert. And it's about, like all these, like, I guess, sexual predators that we have in our community.
Yeah.
And like how there's so many people that have dealt with, you know, sexual abuse or sexual assault at various points, and especially children, though, especially kids. And, you know, lots of us grow up.
Yeah.
And how we're not supposed to talk about it, or if you talk about it, it creates like this huge problem, like where people, like, I feel like community gets polarized in a way it really shouldn't. You know, like, hey, somebody did something messed up, like, there's no reason why you should defend them.
Yeah.
Like, none whatsoever. You know, there's no reason why you think you should be like, this is a matter we have to handle within our family.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, that's how we've done things for a long time. But when people start getting affected outside the family is when that no longer applies. You know, like, I can understand, like, if you want to keep something in your family because it only concerns your family. But we have situations with leaders here where people are starting to get affected just in the community in general, you know, and we have a problem. We have a real problem with, you know, sexual assault and these things, and just lots of people not talking about it creates, I don't know. Anyway, I'm looping back in. My brain is, you know how I am.
That's
I
an important conversation to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But in the lyrics, like, talk about how there's lines where I say, we toss around words like in Machålek,
right,
while some recite prayers, and others shout decolonize, but it's just a veneer. Like, those are lyrics straight out of the song.
Yeah.
So it's like, there are people that, you know, they turn to their faith like it will heal things, but they don't actually do anything about it. You know, it's just thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
You have people that say that our culture will take care of it. In Machålek, we're making good. But again, it's inactive. You know, it's a whole lot of talk. And even people that are saying, like, decolonize, even people that talk about how they want to do something about it, they don't. And it's because it's so easy to position yourself without having to get messy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's what the song is about, really, is it's called Naftan because, you know, it means like a grave, you know. And in the song also we say buried alive in paradise, you know. So we're like buried in the silence, buried in inaction, buried in words that say they're going to take care of things but don't.
Yeah.
You know. And so going back to DIY community, that's why I think it's important. because you can get messy. You can talk about this stuff that is uncouth, like you're not supposed to talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
And so this band, you know, and other people's, like, we get to talk about these things.
Nice.
Something I really love is there's another band called Dogs and Dedido.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they talk a lot about work and like working your life away and never actually living, because all you do is just work. And I think that is such an experience on Guam. That is, I mean, I grew up like working class and, you know, in poverty and stuff back in the States. And like people work multiple jobs, obviously, but like the way people have to work here and how much you have to work in order to barely get by is astounding. Yeah. So many people do it here. Like back there, it was like, yeah, you're like poor and like you're gonna do that. But middle class people typically in back there, you had one job. Yeah. Here, like the middle class on Guam, you still have two jobs.
Right.
You know, like I'm just gonna say it. Like, so right now, my job, you know, I got out of where I was at, got this job. I'm making like, and I'll say it, I make like $55,000 a year, and I still have a second job. Yeah. And it's like,
are you still selling feet pics though, or
you want that on the record? No, I did have an OnlyFans. That's no longer a thing. I didn't have time. I don't have time for it.
Oh man.
Yeah. So now everybody knows.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I feel you. So like, you have this awesome job. We talked about that before the show, but even still, you know, with all of the economic stressors and the social stressors that exist here on Guam, just how difficult they make it to live here, you know?
Yeah.
You need to work the second job. So
yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It's the prices of everything. I mean, rent is outrageous. Cost of food is insane. Like, I mean, you can tie all this stuff to colonialism. Like the military's presence is where most of this stuff happens, and we just work our asses off. And the thing is the best way out for most people, no surprise, is to join the military. Yeah. So, you know, that's systemic. That's not coincidence. I think that's a big thing people need to also talk about. Yeah. It's not a coincidence that that's how it works. Like you're set up to struggle, so you have to join. Yeah. So.
Oh man. So many ways we can take this conversation.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I mean, like, just to sort of like put myself in this conversation, right? I mean, like, what's funny to me is even after I got my PhD, like my dad was like, and I've told the story many times, but like basically like my grandpa and my dad both were in the military, and you know, like many local families and stuff. So even after I got my PhD, he was still asking me like, are you gonna join like the National Guard? Just like, you know, for security and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like, yeah,
I'm doing okay.
Yeah. So, but it's out, you know, it's the I don't know, the urge to join the military, or like that, like, what's the word I'm looking for? That nudge you feel to like join the military is like ever present, you know?
Yeah.
So,
always, all the time.
Yeah. And if not for like the gas prices, right? So,
true. You get those, you know, on base, you get those lowered prices.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how that works. You know, how is it where you, on the same island, you know, we're paying a market price for somehow it's cheaper.
I'm finding it really easy to talk to my students about militarization because of the gas prices, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I've been teaching at UOG now for like 2 semesters, and like I've had like a mixed bag of students, and like I tell them up front like my political stance and all that stuff, and a lot of students are very hands off with that stuff. But like after the gas prices increase, you know, they're like, yeah, fuck that, like it's so unfair. How come the military gets to pay like $2 less the gallon? And so, but yeah,
it's the perks, man.
Yeah.
You know,
serving our country.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you get ground down through the cogs.
Yeah.
Nothing like getting thrown out on the front lines of wars that you don't want to fight.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, that's another thing actually that's funny. I mean, it's not funny, obviously. Strange, coincidental. So there's like a bunch of like military and like contractors here that are not from here, you know, not local. What I find interesting is how many of them hate being in the military. Like they hate it. They're like, I'm gonna get out of here and that's it, never looking back.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, because we're taught to, we think like, yeah, this is something we really need to do. But it's just, I don't know. I don't remember where I was going with this. But it's very interesting like how many people talk to that just are like, yeah, I really, really hate what I'm doing.
Really? Yeah.
So that's something we've seen with our band too.
Yeah.
Like it's weird because we're playing places like bars, right?
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of military folks that hang out at the bars. And like they see our band and like they hear what we're saying. And it's just like it's weird how many of them are actually like, yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Like you being here is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many like, dude, like I feel it and I'm just like, I guess this is okay that you're thinking critically, but like you're still here in the military.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
It's sort of, yeah. I don't know. That reminds me, I'm reading a book by Emalani Case, native or a Kanaka Maoli scholar, and I just finished this chapter this morning on so she's a native Hawaiian, but she has been living in Aotearoa for for many years, I will just say, and so she was talking about how she has trouble conceptualizing whether she is she a settler, you know. I mean, she's indigenous, but she's not indigenous to Aotearoa, and I found that discussion really eye-opening. And like at the end of this chapter, you know, she basically says that like regardless of, you know, the circumstances of how people got to the indigenous land that they're on, like the fact of the matter is that they got there and they're still participating in the structure of settler colonialism. Yeah. And so I don't know, like for me, like I don't know, when it comes to the military, like I don't know how like I can be friends with someone who is like, let's say, an active duty personnel in the military, right? Knowing how much damage they're contributing to. And so I don't know, it's so interesting to me that like through this music you are finding ways to kind of connect with people across the picket fence, the picket line.
That's.
But I mean, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Where do you?
Well, I want them to listen. I want them to listen.
Yeah.
I want them to hear what we're saying. I want them to think about things. I don't want them to think like just because they like my band that
you're cool.
That we're cool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at the end of our sets, a lot of the time our bass player like gets on the mic and starts shouting "fuck your oppressor" like over and over.
Yeah.
And like people shout along, and I'm like, how many people are really like thinking about this at the end of it? But honestly, like I want to do it every single show, just to hammer it home. Like people see us over and over, and they're like, "Wow, why did they keep shouting this? What is this about?"
Yeah. You
know, and yeah, I want them to walk away thinking about it. I want them to listen to our band.
Yeah.
I want them to know though that I'm not cool with them. I'm not cool with them being here.
Yeah.
And I'm not cool with them thinking that somehow because they can sympathize that they're like guilt free.
Yeah.
Like that they just can absolve themselves. Like, no. Like, and it doesn't matter. Like, even if you hate your job, like, it doesn't absolve you. It doesn't. And I've had this conversation with other people too, actually, recently about like, because I'm very like, I mean, honestly, I'm anti-military. Like, I don't want it to exist. I don't want it to be around. Like, sure, there's lots and lots of people that are going to disagree with me, even people in independence and all that stuff. But that's just my bottom line. That's it. And for me, like, I see active duty folks as being, frankly, no different than police. Like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They use force, violence, and death to, you know, push the agenda of whoever's, you know, pulling their strings.
Right.
That is the point.
Yeah.
You know, for police, they protect property. They protect, you know, the material interests of a capitalist class.
Yeah.
And the military does that for the leaders and rulers of that capitalist class, you know, internationally. Like, you're a police force. That's what you are. Like,
Yeah.
and it's interesting how many folks I meet in the military who don't like police, and I'm like, you are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't think about it the same because you do it internationally, and you're thinking about police in a domestic sense, but doing the same thing, man.
Yeah.
And so, like, oh man, this is where things get weird. So, you know, I know people that date military folks.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that I have with them where I'm like, to me, it's no different than you dating a cop.
Yeah.
To me, it's no different than you dating a Klansman. Like, and it doesn't matter to me if that person is black or indigenous.
Yeah.
Like, if you are active in doing the work for a white supremacist settler colonial like system,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what your identity is.
Yeah.
That's what you do. It doesn't matter if you hate it. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It's what you do.
Yeah.
And I say this not being someone who's like, again, like guilt free. Like, my job puts me in situations where I work for the government, where I work for institutions I don't support.
Yeah.
And it doesn't absolve me. You know, it means that I have to look at the ways in which I contribute.
Yeah.
You know? And eventually I can get away from it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or find ways to make it different. And honestly, this whole world would be way better and way different if we all could just collectively say, well, then I fucking quit. And I'm just going to walk away from it. But, you know, this is the part where I do start to sympathize and empathize with people. And is that the one thing we all have in common is, you know, poverty that racialized capitalism has created for all of us. And that we will starve and die if we don't do these things.
Yeah.
If we don't serve the people with the material wealth, with, you know, the power to, you know, that control these things, we die. Bottom line, you know?
Yeah.
That is just the reality of it. So we do all sorts of questionable shit to survive.
Yeah.
And we do it whenever we exploit the labor of somebody else when we start a business of our own or resources. And that includes small business people. I don't care if you're a small business. Like, you are still trying to access capitalism and exploit labor or exploit resources in order to survive. You know, drug dealing, you're exploiting the weaknesses of other people or their addictions or whatever, you know. And honestly, you know, some people just like to get high, and I don't have a problem with that either. But you are exploiting their chemical dependencies, emotional dependencies, all those things.
Yeah.
You know, you exploit anybody when you take advantage of their means to survive in order to survive yourself.
Right.
And so, you know, that's, again, going back to poverty created by the military on our island forces us to join the military, you know. So you're joining the military because if you don't, the same people that run the military are going to make you starve to death.
Yeah.
They're going to leave you out in the elements and you're going to die, or somebody's going to kill you so they can survive. They create a dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We justify to ourselves constantly the things we do, you know, and some people can feel like they do less damage than others.
Yeah.
But we all are part of it. So that's a big question, you know.
Yeah. It's a very slow.
Could we all just quit?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I don't know. So I talk to my students, like, I find a way to talk to my students about, like, you know, forming unions and stuff, and talking to them about how powerful Guam's tourism industry could be, or the labor force, if they like unionized. Like, all this rhetoric around like tourism being like an economic driver and all that shit. Like, can you imagine if all of these workers got together and said, I'm not showing up today? I'm like, fuck that. You know. And so, you know, what you're saying on a larger scale too, like, what if, do you think that, like, you know, we see all of these like movements for workers' rights and stuff in the States over the past year, you know, Striketober and all those things. Do you think that economic conditions and just how fucked the world is right now is going to push people on Guam to take that step?
Oh man, so there's a part of me that really wants to think that it's possible,
Yeah.
but there's a very much louder part of me that just understands like the way people are. On our island, we have so many people that have internalized the ideologies of capitalism, and even if it's not capitalism, it's like ideologies about hard work, ideologies about leadership and different things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to think that anybody would want to agitate in those ways. A lot of people don't like to rock the boat. Hopefully, you know, the economic situation would make people do it.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see that. But, I mean, there's also how far people are willing to go.
Yeah.
And that is the other issue. So there's a reason why. Okay, so the labor rights movement in the U.S. particularly took off when it did in the early 20th century, right? Because people were willing to do way more. I mean, the economic situation was bleak, but people were willing to do more for themselves and their communities than people are now. And part of that is ideology. Got a lot of people have internalized nonviolent ideologies. Civility, the idea that you can win through reforms, etc. The early labor rights movement was not won through people making their guilds. It was not one, like that was part of it, but the guilds were more like affinity groups or gangs outright. And the fact of the matter is when you tried to unionize, your bosses would try to kill you. And in order to unionize, you had to kill them back. And that was a part that they don't talk about in history books about labor rights in the U.S. Is that mobs were involved in it. Unions were oftentimes involved in sabotage, if not outright like assassinations.
Yeah.
A lot of like these really important figures in the early labor rights movement went to jail for long periods of their life, and some of them were kicked out of the country, like Emma Goldman. And there were bosses that got killed, broad daylight, shot, burned inside their warehouses and factories. Like there was a lot of working people that died too, a lot. And the reason why the U.S., in my opinion, the labor rights is lacking in many ways is because people aren't willing to do that anymore. Part of that is because unions have become bureaucratic themselves. They're reformist by their very nature, and they want to funnel all of that pain and anger into their own machinations to keep themselves running. They want their membership to grow. They want the money to spread. They want to have power in the face of industry. And in some ways that's necessary because, you know, industry is going to smash anything that's small. But in some ways that really, really takes the steam out of things. But you look at other places like in Europe, and workers still take to the streets and destroy buildings and burn down businesses. They attack their managers. You know, the U.S. really only just caught up this in 2020 when we started burning precincts. In France, if somebody gets shot, they will burn a precinct like immediately. Immediately. Like there's no questions about it, and nobody's out there like, oh my God, you can't do this. You know? That's just how it is. And I think that on Guam, that is something that we lack incredibly. We have been pacified by ideologies like Catholicism and capitalism, American exceptionalism, just the reformism of liberalism that we get. And yes, conservatives, you are all liberals. That is the ideology you support if you support like a capitalist democracy. And we've internalized it so much, like nobody wants to fight for what they want.
This conversation is bringing me back to 2017, I think, and like Putahilo Tecton, very active. And there was that one protest outside of Anderson Air Force Base. And a few people came out and actually blocked the road.
Yes.
And, that happens all the time in places like in protests in Aotearoa or even in Hawaii, as we're seeing, where they were like actually holding up traffic on the highways in support of Mauna Kea.
Yeah.
So but people blocked the road for I forgot how long they actually did that, but like preventing people from going in or out of Andersen Air Force Base, and just the backlash that people got from doing that,
Yes. Yeah.
And so there was all this talk about being civil, and this is not the Tomoru way, and this is not an FML, like respect, yeah. And so I totally see what you're saying there with like internalizing all of these ideologies that pacify us.
Yes, keep us from our own liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta get that Matå'pang spirit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really got to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and what's funny is okay, so I had a conversation recently with a friend who worked for a distribution company here on island
Mm-hmm.
that is owned by a local family, and they were talking about how at one point there was a group within this company that were talking about unionizing.
Mm-hmm.
They were serious about it. They were talking about it, and it came down to they were scared because they were afraid of what this family and their connections would do to them
Mm-hmm.
if they tried to. And so we know on this island, and everybody does, that if you cause problems for people in power, you might end up being a bloodstain on a wall,
Mm-hmm.
or you might end up having to move away.
Yeah.
And everybody recognizes that. I think
Yeah.
that everybody understands that. But when it comes to, do you fight back? The answer is hell no.
Mm-hmm.
That's how people think.
Yeah.
It's okay if somebody strikes me, but I cannot strike back.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's not violence that we're talking about, even if it's just sabotage or blocking a roadway,
Yeah.
or disrupting commerce, like we have people that. So when this stuff was going on in 2020, where people were burning buildings and breaking in and looting and all this stuff, we had local people that are like, if somebody did that here, we'd go out and beat the shit out of them. Or their uncles would go and do the job for us.
Yeah.
Like, it is totally okay to use violence to protect the status quo, but if you're talking about making things better for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it is not okay.
Yeah.
That's what we experience here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It'd be really awesome if people were interested in unionizing, if people were interested in doing that work.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we also need to address the reality of those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything I'm about is discarding naivety. Everything I'm about is discarding romance.
Yeah.
Like, discard this romantic notion that we can break our chains if only we organize.
Yeah.
Because there is always something that pushes back.
Mm-hmm.
There is always a dirty, messy, hurting, painful part
Yeah.
to trying to get free. And yeah, that's what people need to confront within themselves
Mm-hmm.
before they confront in their community.
Yeah.
Because you will run with your tail between your legs,
Mm.
And if we're talking about even bigger things,
Yeah.
like the military, like, we have to recognize the reality of power, how much power we do have, what we're willing to do, what we can do, etc. And there's people that are going to talk about that and be like, well, realistically, we have to stick to reform.
Mm-hmm.
But then realistically, it's actually just about how far you're willing to go.
Yeah.
And I say, look at East Timor.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, look at Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I say, look at all these places historically. Look at what's going on with Rojava.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the people in Ukraine.
Right.
Right. Like, look at what happens when it means that much to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a good life. By no means is it a good life. Like, but you're not fighting for right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we can think about on Guam. I think that's something that we all can relate to. Because when we think about surviving the war, when we think about surviving colonization from the Spanish, We think about even just building a legacy for your family. It's not about your life right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we will work our asses off until we're sick, until we don't have anything to look forward to for ourselves, because we're thinking about our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids,
right. Future generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to think about, not about the hell that it takes to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how far are you willing to go? Like, how hard are you willing to squeeze,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to get the juice?
Yeah.
How,
right.
you know, like, what are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. At this point, I'm probably gonna get like fucking begged.
Well, at least we got to catch up, you know, before. Oh man, I feel you there, and even in the position I'm in right now, like I still feel a lot of the pressures that you're talking about. Like, you know, if I write the wrong thing in my thesis, for instance, or in a journal article, like, you know, is this going to offend administration at the university, or like, you know, is this going to cost me my job? And, you know, that's one of the problems with having such a small community like Guam and having such influential people, you know. So, yeah. But I don't know. You're a Dragon Ball Z fan, I assume. Like everyone is at some extent.
You know it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like I'm in the hyperbolic time chamber right now. I have no conceptualization of what time it is right now.
Yeah.
All I know is that I really enjoyed chatting with you, and it definitely brings me back to good times before the pandemic and all that stuff. But before I keep you here any longer, I mean, there's a few other things that I want to talk to you about, and one of those is we've been talking a lot about community, and I know that you were involved with Patron-exclusive.
Yes.
And so I thought that was an amazing, like, movement. Like, it's not something that we'd seen from, like, Independent Guahan or Patehi. Like, it was completely, like, community-based. And I don't know if you just want to talk a little bit about the mentality behind organizing with Patron-exclusive, and, you know, whether, you know, that we need more organizations to step up and do things like that, you know, moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so first things first is I need to say Patron-exclusive has been on a little bit of a break for a while now. And it's been because within our collective, we've had people with health issues and people in general, we're all trying to survive. This is our community. We're a part of that community. We experience the same struggles and everything, and trying to get out of those struggles. And so, like, we're not professionals like at a nonprofit, you know. We're not like paid government, you know, employees.
Yeah.
So for us, like, it's been a struggle to maintain our own lives and to keep doing this stuff. We will be back. We will be doing things. We are reorganizing so we can get back to, you know, doing our mutual aid efforts and supporting each other. But you know, the biggest thing that I want to say is how amazed and at the same time completely unsurprised I am by our people in supporting each other through Patron-exclusive, like just providing what everybody needs for each other just over and over, and people not feeling. The thing I like the most is where there's no stigma at all. People just helping each other, taking when they need it and giving when they can, and I think that's amazing. Another thing I've seen too is there are other groups that are popped up. They're, you know, within their own social networks or within their own communities or their own village, but there are people doing exactly the same thing.
Nice.
And it's really raised when we're talking to people, you know, people from different political backgrounds, different, you know, ideas, talking about some of the same things. And that's another thing we like. And that's where we're talking about wages and poverty. We're talking about power, talking about systems that keep us from having what we need, talking about how we have systems that alienate us from each other so we cannot support each other the way we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we see that in like how we have to work our asses off to make our bills, so we don't have time to help other people, or we don't have the money to buy things to give other people, like, or we don't have the time to grow things to give to people. Like, we don't have time to support each other because we're forced to give all our time to jobs. And people are seeing these things. They're seeing like how our cost of living is so insanely like big because of the military's presence, because of a history of colonialism, like with the Jones Act, making everything expensive getting here, with just how the wage economy in general on Guam started because the U.S. wanted to get us out of our subsistence, out of our families and communities and villages supporting each other, so they can make sure that we were a part of their capitalist system. They did this by putting taxes and fees on us, fining us for all manner of things, whistling, speaking our own language. Right. And then they took advantage after the war when the land was destroyed and we couldn't grow for ourselves. They pumped us full of canned foods. And then they said, work to buy these things. You have to. You can't grow anything. Yeah. And they started taking all the good growing land, the breadbasket in Tidzan. You know, they took all these like important places for the growing rice in PD, Sumai, and it was poison. Yeah. And they dredged out the harbor in Apra, and there was guaranteed that's where a lot of people were fishing. You know, they all sorts of things, you know, like the war itself and then everything after that. It made it so we couldn't go back to being subsistence society. We couldn't grow for each other. We couldn't do those things. We had to pay money in order to exist. In order to live on land we lived on for millennia. There we go. For millennia, we had to pay taxes. We had to pay fees. We had to pay to get married. Yeah. Which is something we'd never even done under the Spanish. Like that was the church's business. Right. So, yeah, the system that we live in was on purpose. It didn't happen on accident. And so that's something that people talk about. And maybe it's not specific to everything I just said, all my talking points, but it's what people are talking about. People are talking about how we don't have to live like this. We don't. And how do we get out of it? That's the next question I hope people are asking themselves.
How do we get out of it?
How do we get out of it? And so, you know, the Chinchuli Collective, Mutual Aid Collective, whatever you want to call it, like it is culturally relevant. It is our past. It is the present we should have, and it is our future that we should be working toward. And, you know, this is as indigenous as it gets, in my opinion. Yeah. And, you know, I think that that's what people are going to run with. I think that's why it's important. But I will say as far as what we were trying to do is to get people to see that taking care of each other is important and we're responsible for it. Yeah. You know, that we got away from it. We talk so much like we still do it, but we got away from it. It got away from us. It was taken from us. Yeah. And it was replaced by charity, by nonprofits. Right. It was replaced by business leaders. Like it was replaced by these people that were supposed to be so benevolent, but always have their own interests. Yeah. And it's still available to us. And it's more available now than it was after that war. You know, we can grow again. Yeah. You know, and we can start reclaiming spaces again. And we can meet each other on levels that, you know, weren't possible before. Yeah. So that was part of it. We wanted to just like put that out there, get that spirit moving. The other thing too is we are so tired of seeing how the models for charity and nonprofit work here, where there's leaders that benefit. They collect grant money and they've got their position and they make money and they delegate to people who make way less money. And those people are overburdened by the work they have to do. They have to make good on their promises for their grants. So they end up doing the bare minimum so they can meet those requirements. Yeah. They can't focus on any one thing. They can't throw themselves into one project for a while and neglect other things to make that really work. You know, they have to make estimations on what they can and can't do. And it's all to collect money. I mean, part of it's to collect money so they can do the things they want to do, but a big part of it's to pay the salary of the people that run it. Yeah. And tired of seeing that. Tired of seeing people that want to speak on the behalf of the interests of working people and impoverished people and, organizations, nonprofits, etc., can claim that they know what people are going through or what people want.
Yeah.
And I think that that's bullshit. People can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And they know better. And oftentimes we've seen that it's not true, like what people are saying, like at the heads of these organizations. It's not to talk shit on them entirely, because people are doing important work. We even point people to like things like Catholic Charities because there's resources that are available. But there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. They are allowed to have resources because they participate in the bureaucracy. They participate in the system that they're supposed to. They do things they're supposed to. That's why they're given resources to give to people. Because if you don't do exactly what those that want you to do, like you don't get given those things.
Right.
And that therein lies another part. We're like, there are so many people on our island that are dealing with addictions, and they are barred from support. And people stigmatize them and hate them. And, you do a lot of stuff that you probably shouldn't do to people in your community when you're dealing with those demons.
Yeah.
But it works better for our communities to embrace people and to try and heal those things and to give people support, than it is to push them out and put them in survival mode even deeper.
Yeah.
Because these people are going to come after your stuff if you push them to live in the jungle.
Yeah.
It's much better to give them some food and to give them love and to be like, you belong, even when you struggle, even when you might be a little dangerous, and it is to force them out because they will come after their means to survive.
Right. I've said it. I say it a lot, actually. I mean, there's nothing scarier than someone with nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And we create that, though. We create people with nothing to lose when we push them out in a way. So that's another thing, too, is we want to make sure people get what they need. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And, there's some people that maybe done some bad stuff, but they need to be accountable to who they've done the things to. But, I mean, honestly, people deserve to live. People deserve to eat. People deserve to have hygiene, places to live,
dignity,
and you can't get better. You can't heal things. You can't be accountable if you are always in survival mode.
Right.
Like, all you know is fight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wonderfully said. And so my last question, and I wish we could talk for more time, but I'm very conscious of the fact that, like you said, you have 3 kids. There are things that you need to do, and there's things that we have to do as well. But I mean, I want to ask you in closing, what does it mean for you to be a descendant of Matå'pang, and how does that guide how you navigate life?
So for me, I mean, personally, it's good for me to know that I have that connection because it goes back far. There's a lot of people that's not that far. They'll say, "Oh, it's not that far. That's like 17th century. That's not that long ago." There's some people that they know their family's been places for not hundreds of years, but thousands of years. And some people can trace their lineages no problem. But here, it's actually very rare to be able to trace your lineage to someone like that. We know names of all these like Maga'låhi. We know the nameless.
Yeah.
We know that there's lots of people, but we don't know who's related to who.
Right.
Not very many people know who they came from in that period. And I didn't even know for a long time it was Bernard from the Tomorrow Genealogy Project who made that connection, because he heard about Familien Terao, which is one of my families, and rumors that we were connected to that. And he dug through the history and the documentation, and he found the connection. Like, he connected it up, and that's how we know.
Yeah.
And so, shout out to Terao. my clan. What's up? But yeah, like just knowing that was like, it was a big deal for me, because I'm mixed, and I left here when I was 7, grew up in the diaspora. There's a lot of rootless feelings, a lot of feeling like I don't belong, a lot of people making me feel like I don't belong.
Yeah.
For me, knowing that I have that ancestor that far back, and a figure I actually look up to, super important for myself, like in a spiritual identity, like all that kind of way. But also like knowing what he did, like it's like bolsters me. It strengthens my heart, and it also makes me feel like things I think and things that I talk about and all these things like feel like they're good. They belong, here. Like, because there's so many people that try and tell me this and that is not tomorrow and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
But then I look at him, and and I know he's a controversial figure for a lot of people, especially Catholics. But to me, like, the fact that he needed to be demonized so much, just to me says like how important he was. And then, I know there's a lot of like talk about the history of that and whether he was in the right to do it even culturally, because we're matrilineal.
Yeah.
So technically it might not even have been his decision to make whether his children were baptized or not. His partner could have been like, yeah, of course, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
And she could make that call. And so he might have stepped in on something he wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that. Like, it was short-sighted. Like, all sorts of people can talk like different points on it. To me, it's like, there's nothing wrong with feeling your impulse for freedom, feeling an impulse to protect, and even going against conventions to do it. And to me, that embodies something that I think has always been there in our people. And that is that we are willing to step out of line. I think we lost that. So when I look at my ancestor, I'm like, we're willing to do it. We are. We left island Southeast Asia and came out here before anybody else was out in the remote ocean,
Yeah.
And we transformed our ways of living. We transformed ourselves. We, all these things, stepping out of line, doing something different, new beginnings, creating new things. And that goes into like my own ideas about, moral philosophies and spirituality and stuff. But I think our ancestors firmly believed in making your own reality. And just because, there's a convention, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't break it. So that's my ancestor. There's a lot of meaning for me in that sense. Yeah.
Beautiful. Machålek Sindålu, aka my friend. Been a pleasure, just being able to chat with you here. We have these microphones between us, but I mean, like, me, like, this is all just a conversation, and fully embrace that. When can we expect you on the show again, man?
I don't know. When do you want me? Just say the word.
Okay, good. You heard it here. And so I guess I'm terrible at these things, but I guess we'll just stop the recording now.
Way better than me.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. As always, thank you for supporting Fanachu and for being a patron. And so, yeah, hasta.